Series 1 of the Scale Up Your Sales and Marketing podcast is powered by Enterprise Nation, providing expert support for small businesses in the UK.
Welcome to episode 5 of Scale Up Your Sales and Marketing podcast. Today, we're going to be interviewing Leisa all about sales. And today's episode is called Let's Get to the Point, shall we? So Leisa, tell us what it's about. Why have we got to get to the point?
Right, very good question. So today's episode, we're going to be looking specifically at sales outreach communications. So looking particularly at 3 areas. So telephone calls, emails, and face-to-face, so in person. And the reason it's called Let's Get to the Point is because it's really important for you as a small business owner or as a small business professional to be able to articulate what you and your business does in a very succinct way to grab the attention of your audience. So, without further ado, let's get to the point. So starting with telephone. So this is a communication tool that we use really effectively in my business. And actually, I'd have to say it's probably our most effective communication tool. The reason being that most of the businesses that we're contacting on behalf of clients are small, independently owned businesses where the decision maker is usually the person at the end of the telephone. Now, I do get that this isn't the case for everyone, but what I am going to do is give you some tips which will help you as a small business owner really master and feel confident making your own sales outreach calls. So let's get started. So I've got 5 top tips. Sorry, Vic, I've gone off the grain slightly.
You're normally 3.
I am usually a person of 3, but it's Friday, so I thought I'd splash out. So time. What I mean by this is make sure that you have the time to make these calls. So don't squeeze it in between 2 meetings. I've got 10 minutes. Right, I'm going to crack on and make as many phone calls as possible. No, you need to give yourself sufficient time to do it to the best of your ability. But you also need to be mindful of the time of the person that you are contacting. So I'll give you a classic example of this, and this is totally my bad and something that I wouldn't normally do. So this week I was making a lot of calls on behalf of clients, and I made the fatal mistake of calling a cafe at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Uh-oh.
I know. And as soon as I'd done it, I just knew. And the lady said, look, I'm really sorry, but you've caught me at a really bad time. I'm right in the middle of lunchtime service. And of course I knew that. And I just apologised and said, I'm really sorry to bother you. I'll call back at a better time. So I think as far as time goes, make sure you have the time, but also make sure that you're mindful of the time of day that you're contacting the person that you want to make the connection with, because what you want to do is set yourself up for success. Second tip, get comfy. So if you work in a big office and actually the thought of your colleagues listening into you making calls makes you want to cringe, then I would suggest you book a meeting room or you find a quiet corner of the office to actually do these calls, away from listening ears, where you're going to feel more comfortable and actually, as I've said already, give yourself the best opportunity to be successful with your interactions. If you need to, so I do all of my calls on my mobile phone. I always use the loudspeaker because it's just easier, and it means that I've got a hand free for writing as well. But if you need to use a headset, or if you're dialing from a landline, I mean, I don't even know if they exist anymore, but just get yourself comfortable. Just be comfortable, be in a space that is conducive to doing what you need to do so you get the best outcome. Set an objective. So what is the reason for this call? You're not phoning to say hi and have a chat. You're phoning to get the email address of the decision maker, find out the name of the decision maker, introduce your product and business very top line, but make sure you have in the back of your mind before you even pick up the phone the objective for the call, because that is going to enable you to actually make it a successful interaction. Number 4, be bold. Mm-hmm. So when you call, you need to own that conversation. So no I was just wondering if, is it okay if you phone up, you say, hi, it's Leisa from Find Me the Leads. You don't say, hi, my name is Leisa. I'm calling from a company called Find Me the Leads. just be bold, own the conversation. In the back of your head, you need to be thinking, I know something, I have something that this person wants. So
tip.
Be bold and get to the point. And don't apologise. So this is really important. So don't say, I'm really sorry to bother you, but is it okay if? Because the fact that you've said, sorry to bother you, might actually make them think, well, now you come to mention it, you are bothering me. So don't apologise. If you've done your homework and you're contacting someone who has a need and a want for your product or service, there is no need for you to apologise. You're making a connection and showcasing something that they actually need. So that's the telephone. Hopefully that's been helpful. Moving on to emails.
Before you go on to emails, can I ask you something about telephone?
Go on.
I used to work in a office in London, and there was people in the sales team, and they used to walk around. Now, we always used to think, what are you doing walking around on the phone? But actually, now I come to think about it, when I make calls, I can sometimes be stood up even in my own office, because I feel like I'm talking better. And there's also something that I've heard about people smiling when they're on the phone as well. Like, are these things that you'd say are good tips for business
Absolutely.
owners?
I think you've got to do what feels right for you.
Right, okay.
But absolutely about the presenting yourself. And this can be over the phone when the person can't actually see you. Via email, again, they can't see you, or face to face. When you stand up and you put your feet 2 feet apart, or hip distance apart, that's what I was trying to say, it opens up your chest and enables you to really project your voice. So I can feel myself doing it now. I'm actually like putting my shoulders back and opening up my chest, because it enables you to breathe. It gives you more air in your lungs, and that enables you to really project your voice. So absolutely find what works for you. I've actually got a funny story about that, because when I worked for a big corporation, as a sales team, we used to base ourselves every Friday from the closest office, and we used to descend on this office, en masse, and sit in the corner of the office at what were called the hot desks, and make a bit of noise, which they didn't really like, just because we were chattering and that sort of thing. And I remember a couple of times the sales guys did exactly what you've just said. When they received a call, they got up from the desk to walk away, and we actually got complaints, and we were told not to do it. So you might just want to check what the office policy is before you start wandering around on the telephone. But do what works for you, which is going to make you feel confident and is going to get you the best result. So let's move on to email. Email is definitely not dead. Email is also a very effective communication tool that we use within my business. But just to caveat that, I think it's important to say that email should not be used in isolation. So when I send an email, I in the back of my head, I'm not always expecting a response, because I know that that's quite unlikely. So email needs to be used alongside other forms of communication, and maybe as a reference point, so that when you do make contact with that person, you can say, I sent you an email, did you see it? What did you think, etc., etc. So email is part of your communication strategy. It is not a standalone piece of communication. So first things first, make it personal. If you've done your homework, you've done your research, you phoned up, and you know the name of the decision maker, you need to include that in the to section of the email. I would even go as far as to say, use it in the subject line. So we do this quite a lot. We put FAO, Julie, you asked for more information, because actually it's like you're speaking directly to them. Yeah. So use their first name as much as possible. Second, reference. This is again back to name. So if you've had an interaction with another person within that business and they have provided you with the name of the decision maker, reference that conversation. Say, I phoned on Thursday and spoke to Jane, who said it would be okay to get into whatever that looks like, but just make them aware this is not the only means of communication that you are sending to them. You have tried to contact them in other ways too. Keep it short and sweet. So get to the point. This is not subject and verse, why you started the business, whatever that looks like. This is, hi, this is me, this is what I do, this is what I've got to tell you, call to action. And I've got my favourite 4-letter acronym at the moment is TLDR, too long didn't read. Ooh. And it's used quite a lot in emails. So people that just literally waffle on and on and on and on in an email, it's like, email was too long, I didn't read it. So get to the point. Yeah. They're going to read the first section, possibly the second section, if you're lucky, the third. So think of it as 3 building blocks, 1, 2 and 3. But keep it short and get to the point.
And I guess within there, if there are, say 3 paragraphs, one of them could then become bullet points instead. So then it's easier on the eye and it's a bit more like, feels a bit more
absolutely
easy to digest.
White space is your friend, as we know in social media captions, but also on email too. So section it out, make it easy on the eye, make it possible for the eye line to follow what you're writing. But don't give them your full story, warts and all, because actually if you reveal your full hand in that one email, you haven't really got anywhere to go from there. Make sure when you're talking about the features of your product, you're also talking about the benefits to them. Now, we did go through this in quite a lot of detail in episode 3. So if you're wondering what I'm going on about with features and benefits, refer back to that episode. But it needs to be relevant to them. What is the feature of your product and why is it their next best selling line or their next best selling product? And use this email as a teaser. So use it as the start of what you hope will become an ongoing channel of communication. So I've already said it. Do not reveal your full hand, warts and all. You need to reveal the essentials to start the conversation, which you can then build on in your next communication, whether that be via email or telephone. So I've got one of my favourite terms is about breadcrumbing. And I think some people like to just know everything. They want to know the full story all in one go. But actually, I think if you are owning this email communication and you are owning this sales outreach process, you need to just think about, what am I going to reveal each time I interact with this person? What are the key bits of information I want to share with them that will make them ultimately buy from me? So really see this as you leaving a trail of breadcrumbs, which will ultimately lead them to the end goal, which is engaging with you and becoming a fully paying customer. So that's email. Just to give you a few ideas in terms of what you could put in your emails, if you are, product business, or if you're indeed a service business, talk about what that product or service is. Talk about how it comes packaged. So that could actually be physical packaging, or it could be metaphorical packaging, as we talked about last time in the features and benefits session. So if it's a service, it could be how they will access that service, how they will pay for that service, how that service will benefit them as a business owner or their business in general. Talk about the story behind how your product or your service came to be. Everyone loves a good backstory, but really make it relevant and make it a compelling story that's going to enable them to connect with you. Customer reviews. So can you actually share, I've just delivered, last time we delivered this too. This is what customers had to say about it. So think about this. We're going back to the breadcrumbing. This is all information which you can reveal via your email and sales outreach process. And share good news. If you've had a piece of press or PR, you've won an award, you've been involved in an event, whatever that looks like, share that. That is external reference, which adds credibility to your products, goods and services. So include it. You are literally making them want to buy from you because it's the best thing they're going to have and they need it in their business. So last but no means least, and actually really important, is around in person. So getting to the point when you're interacting with and communicating with prospects, customers, clients, collaborators, whatever that looks like, in person. Now, this could be in many ways, but broadly speaking, it's about networking. And whether that be through a traditional networking event or whether that be you've bumped into someone, in the school playground, in the soup, whatever that looks like, you've got to think of this as this is an opportunity for me to get to the point, articulate who I am, what I do, and how my business makes the world a better place, if that is the case. So this is all about the elevator pitch. And most of you will probably know what I mean by that. But just to be absolutely clear, so it's called an elevator pitch because it is supposed to be the conversation that you have with somebody in the lift. So imagine you're waiting on the ground floor to get the lift. The door opens and you're most like, I don't know, Richard Branson is in the lift. Richard Branson's in the lift. Whoever you're like, oh my God, he's my ideal client, customer. This is somebody that I just need to tell all about what I do. So you've got the time it takes for the lift to reach the ground floor to whatever floor you or he or they are going to tell them about you and your business. And that's why it's called an elevator pitch. They're also called like water cooler conversations. So imagine if you're in a big office, you're off to get a cup of water and the CEO like sidles up to you at the water cooler. What are you actually going to say to them that's going to secure your next promotion? So you need to have that planned, prepared, and you need to nail it. You need to think 30 seconds if I'm lucky, 60 seconds if they're feeling really generous. So think about what it is you would want to say. So there's always like an intro. So when I go to a networking event, typically everyone gets the opportunity to stand up and introduce themselves and their business. And I would stand up and say, Leisa Pickles, find me the leads, making connections in food and drink. Sit back down. The reason is because I'm announcing myself, the name of my business, and I'm already telling the audience that actually I work in the sector of food and drink. You don't need to waffle. You don't need to tell them more than they need to know. Just breadcrumb, i.e. whet the appetite. But you then need to have something to back it up. So I would then go on to say, when I'm given my 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, however many seconds that looks like, hi, my name's Leisa Pickles. My business is called Find Me the Leads. We help food and drink producers get their products into more places and in front of more people. And hopefully the people on the table go, oh, wow, that sounds really interesting. What does that look like? And I say, well, we find suitable outlets for our customers' products, and then we make connections on their behalf. That's usually via the telephone or via email. But ultimately, what we're trying to do for our clients is get their products in front of more people and ultimately into the hands of more consumers. So we're just giving a bit away each time. So that one, by the way, was totally off the cuff. And I probably should have prepared that a little bit more succinctly. However, for the purposes of this episode and to illustrate the point, it is important to prepare. And obviously, you've just seen a real life example of failing to prepare in this particular instance. But you need to make sure that you prepare. You have a few, depending on the audience, the time that you're going to be given, and the message that you want to get across. But actually being able, and this comes back to your point, Vic, about standing up, feet hip distance apart, open up your chest, project your voice, and just say it. There is a really famous saying, and I think it's Winston Churchill, and he's talking about his approach to delivering like key speeches. And he says, tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them you told them. And I think it's really important, because this is when you're delivering, whatever you want your elevator pitch to be, it is important to bring it to a close as well. So if you get the opportunity to repeat your name and the name of your business again
at the end,
because people do drift off thinking about what they're going to have for tea or the call that they need to make when they get back to the office. So tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them you told them. So that, think about it this way: if they walk away and they tell somebody, one of their mates, I've just been sat on table number 5 with Leisa Pickles, and they say, well, who's Leisa Pickles? What does she do? Said, her business is called Find the Leads. She makes connections in food and drink. Anyway, yeah, lovely. What we're going to have for dinner tonight. So just think about your key messages, what you want to say, how you want to say it, and how you want to be remembered. So I think we're coming probably to a natural close for this episode, and I hope that I've given you some top tips as to how you can just get to the point when it comes to your sales outreach communications, specifically around telephone, email, and in person. You just need to get to the point, allow your personality to come through, but really be clear on what it is you want to say and who you want to say it to. So thanks for listening. Catch you next time.
Don't forget to follow us over at Scale Up Podcast on Instagram for behind the scenes footage and access to additional resources to help you master your own sales and marketing.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.